military bases, but it's going to be domestic. And they'll come out and say, I'm lying about that, hoping you don't go watch the video on C-SPAN. I'm sick of it. All right. The rest of the hour and into the hour, next hour, 5 minutes, is Fritz Springmeier. He joins us, author, lecturer, researcher, and also political prisoner. If anybody ever got set up for bank robbery, no criminal record, you know, West Point, whole 9 yards, and then they start raiding and constantly trying to dig up stuff on him, trying to make stuff up on him. And he keeps beating all their fake charges, so they just have a bunch of informants with big criminal records 1,000 feet long. They could have an informant show up here and say, I robbed a bank. And they got juries that are kept, 98% conviction rate, most of them getting narcotics money. These federal juries, send me to prison. They got federal juries that would gas a newborn baby for working with Adolf Hitler. You'd say, but jury, the baby wasn't alive until an hour ago. They're like, I don't care. FBI says gas them, gas them. That's the crook government we've got, okay? Now, continuing here, by the way, we do sell Fritz Springmeier's book. Wasn't even in print anymore. And we got it printed, and they're available at Infowars.com discounted. We also have it available with Dark Secrets Inside Bohemian Grove, Order of Death. 2 films. I think it's discounted like $10, or is it $5? I forget what I did. 2 of my films, if you get the films with the book at Infowars.com, or you can call 888-253-3139, and it gets info weapons into your hands, and it also funds our operation. But Bloodlines, Illuminati, back in print, available at Infowars.com right now. Fritz, since you wanted to get into Nazi Germany and parallels to how Hitler took over to what's happening here today, I thought I would just first talk about the incredible police state we live under. And because it's been done incrementally, it's like, well, yeah, they will secretly arrest you and kill you, but that's not a police state. Look at this crazy guy, Alex Jones, Mother Jones says. Alex Jones doesn't like torture or secret arrest. I mean, he's a loon, Fritz Springmeier.
Yes. Thank you for the privilege to be on your show. And this is a great topic today because it's something that's affecting all of us. It's this police state. And I just want to build upon what you've been talking about in the last 10 minutes, which was you did such a good job of describing all of these things that are happening around us, like the FEMA Corps and the rest. If we don't look at history, and I love history. I love to go back and examine things. If we don't look at history, as they say, then we're forced to repeat it. We have a good example of how a police state can be created successfully. The Nazis needed a consensus for their government to work, and yet a large share of the German people had strong reservations about the policies of the Nazis. They didn't believe their cosmology and a lot of their other
they were force-fed it.
Yeah, and what was the bottom line, the main tool that the Nazis were able to establish that gave them the social control to carry out their policies? And what it turns out is when you examine things, and the same dynamics are working today, and you've been describing some of them, the same dynamics that allowed the Nazis to have success are happening today, and those are what I wanted to talk about. The most important tool that they had was denunciation. Now, another popular word would be snitching. But snitching has the connotation that you're actually informing the police on a real criminal. So I want to use the word denunciation, and that is where you become an informant, where citizens are turned into the eyes and ears of the police state, and they start turning in people as a thought police. That's what happened in Nazi Germany. And how did they manage to get that to happen? And how is it happening here in this country? My son in 1990 was going to a Protestant school, and I found out that he was secretly being taught in the classroom in a Christian parochial school nonetheless, to spy on his parents. And when I asked the teacher, well, who started all of this? She said, well, she got her training at Monmouth Teachers College, at the Teachers College here in Oregon, and that's how they train the teachers. So even in Christian schools, the teachers are being trained and certified by the state, and they already, for quite a few years, have been training our students to spy on their adults. Having been in prison, I'm very conversant with the prison population, and I can categorically, without a doubt, say that the majority of convictions, the majority of indictments and convictions being done in this country are being done on the basis of tip-offs, denunciation, snitching. It is not done by police investigation.
No, they have child molesters and murderers who will go call out a preacher with no record, and the jury sends them to jail. I mean, they use professional liars who are known criminals to testify.
Right. There was even a company to help them do that. It was called Conviction Consultants Incorporated. You would rent a rat, and the government would pay these rats about $250,000 to come in and lie through this company, Conviction Consultants.
Yeah, that's how they do it. I mean, they could, folks. You just have to understand, this system has no credibility. The Dallas police have been caught just pulling people over, throwing bags of chalk in their back of their car randomly to take their property. They're not even ripping off drug dealers. The author of Bloodlines of the Illuminati is our guest. Fritz Springmeier joins us. And then look at this little headline here. The Atlantic, the hero. That's right. Rob Jacobson earlier brought me the Atlantic. This is like the establishment liberal publication. They sent one of their head guys down here a few years ago. They never did an article on me. They just wanted to check me out. But I met and talked to the guy for about 4 hours. I'm not going to even get into it. The point is that it says that he's the hero. Ben Bernanke saved the global economy. So why does everybody hate him? And then you open it up to the third page that has the rundown of what's in the magazine, The Atlantic, and it's all about how great Rahm Emanuel is and how he's saving us. I mean, aren't we lucky to have Ben Bernanke and other heroes like Rahm Emanuel? I mean, what a joke. He fronts for the private Federal Reserve that engineered the global implosion by design and created the derivatives. I mean, he should be in chains. Should one of the other big architects of this, Corzine, John Corzine. I mean, caught perjuring, caught stealing masses of money, worse than Bernie Madoff, don't get in trouble. And then they have their publications tell us how great they are. And the average nitwit walking around in a grocery store sees this and thinks, the hero. I mean, that's like saying Jeffrey Dahmer's a hero. So over the top. This is a short segment, Fritz, long one coming up. Please continue with the point you were getting to about the snitch society. I don't think people know that it's come out that police departments are even telling how their officers how to lie on the stand about people. And I guess until you've experienced it, you just don't realize how evil the system's getting. I'm not saying all police do it or all systems do, but I'll guarantee you, and it's on record, the FBI and others certainly do.
So true. How did the Nazis achieve their remarkable success in getting this consensus? Well, when they took over power, when they were voted into office, they started applying brutality and terror. The police. Now, these police forces were officers in general that were inherited from the Weimar Republic. They weren't Nazis, but a lot of people will follow whatever they think is a legal government. So you have a lot of people today that don't realize how illegal our government is and how so many of the laws and things that they're doing are illegal. So they blindly think that whatever's been said, they need to follow. So what you had in Nazi Germany was it wasn't important that the rank and file of the government and the Gestapo believed. Most of the Gestapo were actually not hardcore Nazis. What they were police officers that believed in following the legal government. And so what you have people doing is cooperation, or in German Gleichschaltung. This Gleichschaltung, this cooperation, is all that they need. So it's more important that the government has a party line. That's that they establish a party line, because they know that a lot of people, just like today, will cooperate with that, whether they wholeheartedly believe it or whether they have reservations or not. They will excuse following it by saying, well, that's who's boss, and that's the will of the people, you know. We voted Hitler into power, blah, blah, blah. When I went to West Point, I was shocked, because it was at the tail end of the Vietnam War, and this wasn't a scientific poll, but from talking with my classmates, the majority of them did not believe in the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War was very unpopular, even with the officer cadets. But what was scary to me is all of those classmates that were against the war were quite willing to go over and be officers in Vietnam if that's what their orders were. In other words, they're setting their conscience up on a shelf with the excuses, this is what I've been told to do. That's a little frightening.
That's right. I was just following orders syndrome. Well, the Nuremberg Code shows, we're going to come back and get into this because it's the heart of the problem we face, that just following orders doesn't cut it. Fritz Springmeier is our guest, author of Bloodlines, the Illuminati. We're going to continue looking at how a nation is seduced by evil and how following orders, when it's clearly corrupt and immoral, is the road to absolute hell. We'll be back with Fritz Springmeier. Stay with us. Author, researcher, Fritz Springmeier is our guest. He's breaking down how the Nazis were able to do a couple things. Bully the general public into shutting up via fear and peer pressure of being shouted down, but also get the military and the police structure to follow orders incrementally. And they firebombed the Reichstag building shortly after Hitler got elected, and then used that to get more power. He didn't get elected with a majority vote, though. He got into one of the houses of parliaments, because they have a president and a chancellor. And then after the Reichstag, and von Hindenburg was sick and had a stroke, then they merged the two, and he became the Fuhrer to keep everybody safe from the terrorist that blew up the Capitol. Blow up the Capitol, become supreme ruler. So that's why you've always got to look when somebody blows up the Capitol. Okay, who stands to gain from this one? But Hermann Goering was there within minutes. Of course, he was the one running around with the troops pouring gasoline everywhere. It later was declassified. Running around to catch the bad guy, a homeless person they drugged and had naked, screaming and yelling, who supposedly broke into the whole Capitol and poured gasoline and incendiary weapons everywhere. And again, it's this following orders. Hitler also created the SA that was like a goon force of not really police and military, because they couldn't get the police and military early on to do all the stuff they wanted, who would just go beat you up as a gang.